So, so that's the problem. Fairly clear. I suspect many of you have folks that do this sort of work, have these kind of issues. What is SortSpoke? As I mentioned right off the top, we're a product company. We're not a services company. We're very focused on building data extraction technology that is best of breed. As I mentioned earlier too, we're a cloud-based tool. We use proprietary artificial intelligence and machine learning to help your teams turn those documents into data. The reason I mentioned proprietary is the fact that we don't leverage any other off-the-shelf technology to do the actual data extraction or classification of your documents. SortSpoke is a unique product in that way, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. We generally help in the following ways: boosting productivity, which I've already referenced, reducing risk by reducing the errors that is produced in manual data extraction, and improving turnaround times. So how are we a little different? If you have any familiarity with data extraction tools, maybe some of you will relate to OCR, or optical character recognition. It's been around since the 70s. It's really the ability to extract data from a certain place on a certain document, and it works great for forms and certificates and things like that, where the layouts never change. We use a very different technology. We are a proprietary machine learning artificial intelligence tool that uses that leverages both the capability of your subject matter experts and that artificial intelligence and machine learning to get data out of highly unstructured, high variation documentation. So we are purposely a human in the loop tool. We're not a technology tool. We don't like to think of ourselves that way, because literally you're going to give SortSpoke to the people that are doing the work today, and it's very quickly going to help them do that work much faster and much more accurately than they can do today manually. Other tools are fully automated or have a high degree of automation, and I'll get into that in just a minute or two. We help you process lots of unstructured documents, lots of high variation unstructured documents. Other tools will start off with asking you for samples of your documentation, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 samples in order to build a template. We don't do that. We never build templates. We never do any pre-programming. SortSpoke is a continuous learning tool that develops your particular model, your particular artificial intelligence machine learning model from scratch, from the very first document that you show SortSpoke. You can train it to meet your needs in hours as opposed to days or months, and it doesn't require any pre-training. So literally you can just give your folks the tool. SortSpoke will know nothing. They will show them, your team will show SortSpoke what it is, the key data pieces that you want, how you want to classify your documents, and the key data pieces you want to get out of those documents. And SortSpoke is like an underwriting assistant or a claims adjusting assistant that is going to sit behind them and watch as they do the work, and is going to absorb all of the nuance, all of the understanding that they have for the documentation, all the understanding they have for the data fields, and all the understanding that they have of the subject matter. And it's going to absorb that into the model to help it understand that these are the key data points, no matter if the format changes, no matter if the layout changes, no matter if the nomenclature changes. These are the key pieces of data. Those are all the pieces of nuance that it's going to absorb, and it's going to be very quickly start to automate that part of the process. When it starts to automate the process, it starts to make suggestions. So that happens normally after you've annotated somewhere between 10 and 15, 10 and 20 documents in a fully manual basis. That's the real key, the initial learning step of SortSpoke. That's where it's not doing any response back to the user. It's just absorbing all of the information that you're giving it as you're showing it the different document types, the different variation, the different data fields that you want to get out of the document. As I say, it very quickly after that 10 to 20 documents, it's going to say, hey, Craig, I've been watching what you've been doing, and I'm pretty sure that on the next document, I can help you out by making some suggestions with where I think the data fields are that you want to extract from this particular document. I say it doesn't matter about any variation in the layout or the format or the nomenclature. It doesn't matter if the documents look completely different. All that matters is that in that particular document type, maybe it's an application form, maybe it's a first notice of loss, maybe it's a loss run, that the fields that you're looking for are consistent across the different variations of documents. It is a user-driven system. It is, I want to emphasize this. This is a tool that you give to your folks. It's a productivity tool. It's going to help them do their job better, faster, more accurately, and it doesn't require a lot of specialists. So other tools require a technology team or a data analytics team in order to help, with ingesting new documents. For example, if there's a new broker that starts sending new documentation types. With traditional tools, you're going to have to get somebody to adjust the templates, to adjust the pre-programming, to adjust the system in order to process those documents. With SortSpoke, the user's going to handle that. They're going to, SortSpoke's going to say, hey, this is a new document. I don't recognize it. I'll make, maybe potentially I will, if it looks very similar to some of the ones they've been processing before, it'll say, here are my suggestions, but it likely won't get the same accuracy that's seen on the previous documentation that you've already showed it. But it is the user who's going to be in control of that. The user's going to say, hey, here are the fields I want. Here's the things you got wrong. It's going to build that new documentation type, that new variation into that model real time and get better and better and better with every instance, every sample of that new document that it sees. So I'll pause there just for a second because usually there's a question or two after this point.
When it says there's a human in the loop, what exactly does that mean?
So, just to be really specific about it, just to be really clear on it, this is not a black box technology solution that we're going to, that is going to be delivered to your team, that is going to be hooked up to an email server, feed documents into it, and out comes the other side is going to become your structured data file. That's not the way we operate. The way we operate is that this is like, think of this as like an Excel tool that your team is going to use. It's very much a tool that is driven by, managed by, controlled by the people that are doing the work today. So let's take an underwriter. If you're an underwriter doing this work today, you're triaging incoming submissions, commercial submissions, and you're trying to make a determination as to whether you want to, proceed to underwriting with these, with a particular file. SortSpoke, you can do that work manually today by extracting certain key pieces of data and making a determination. SortSpoke is going to help that person do that job. So, and I'll show you in a minute what the user interface looks like, but it's literally just a user interface that the people are going to, instead of doing the work manually by reviewing a PDF on their screen, they're going to review that same PDF inside SortSpoke. Does that help understand? Does that help with clarification?
Okay, so the human in the loop is on our side.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
100%.
okay. I was thinking that meant, okay, I got it.
No. This is your team. This is a tool. SortSpoke is a tool that would be given to, managed by your people.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? Okay, so when to choose SortSpoke? This is kind of key because we built this solution for the most difficult documents. This is a solution that it'll work on structured and semi-structured documents. It'll work on certificates and forms, things where the layout never changes. It'll eat that stuff up. It's just very very focused in terms of the technology and the capability for these more unstructured, high variation, complex documents. Part of the reason I say that is, in all honesty, is that if you've got simple forms, you don't need to keep a human in the loop because you can buy tools off the shelf today, other technologies that are going to do that work and do it effectively, and you don't need to keep the human in the loop because there isn't a need to continually manage and continually update the system and continually recognize different variations and different nomenclatures and different layouts that are coming in the door. So is SortSpoke right for my use case? 100%. It's always important that, one of the things that is key here is that you're using SortSpoke in an instance, in an operations setting where 100% accuracy or as close to that as possible is needed. Where these are operations use cases. These are, claims adjudication, underwriting of new commercial submissions, underwriting of life insurance use cases where there is complex documents involved, where, even on a commercial submission in the US, where you have the Accord format, there are lots of supplementary documents that come in as a part of that Accord application. And all of those supplementary documentation, all of that supplementary documentation, whether it's an appraisal, a financial statement, medical records, all of that sort of stuff needs to get processed, and that's where we can help. So our approach is 100% accuracy at 90% automation. As I mentioned right off the top, this isn't a black box that we'll put on the desk of your underwriting folks, feed documents in, cross your fingers, hope you get the right structured data out the other end. We take it from the standpoint of, if you're working at 100% manual process now, we can automate 90% of that process, keeping the human in the loop for the benefit of making sure that there is 100% data accuracy flowing through into your operational processes downstream. Getting started with SortSpoke is honestly as easy, and I'll show you in a couple of minutes. Choosing any document you want, and I mean any document, anything from contracts to invoices in any language. SortSpoke operates we're actually every language that is based on the Roman Roman alphabet. You can process in SortSpoke, so English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, German. The system works in any of those languages, and we actually have on our roadmap the Asian languages, which are coming in 2023. As I mentioned before, there's no templates to set up. We're not trying to, boil the ocean here and figure out every possibility of the documentation that you're dealing with and try and do it in advance. That's a recipe for disaster when you're dealing with these highly unstructured, high variation documentation types. And then your team is going to simply start annotating the document the same way they're doing today, looking for those key pieces of data that are critical to the downstream business process. And while they're doing that in SortSpoke's watching and learning, and is going to start to create your model, create your dynamic continuous learning model that is going to help them do that work much faster and much more accurately in a very short period of time. I'll pause there for a second, because one of the things that we get asked a lot is, well, do you come with a pre-trained, if you're doing so much work in the commercial space, commercial submission space, for example, why don't you have some pre-trained tools ready to go? The reason we don't do that is we don't believe in sharing other people's learning models or other people's data to inform your model. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, of course, is simply proprietary. But the other part of it is, you'd be surprised as to how, although you're dealing with the same documentation, the processes are different in very, very nuanced ways from one organization to another. And the final reason is that SortSpoke learns so fast that we have teams that get this system up and running in an afternoon. And by the end of the first week, they're achieving accuracy levels that are well beyond what their teams could achieve manually. And the system just continues to get better and better and better from an accuracy perspective and from a time to process perspective, driving productivity up, turnaround times down, and service levels are all of a sudden being achieved where they weren't, 2 weeks earlier. So this is just a high-level overview of the process. We are this part in the middle where your team, your augmented, your subject matter experts, whether they're underwriters or claims adjusters or anyone in your organization that is doing this kind of work today, is ingesting documentation from an email server, an inbox of some kind, or a database, is provided that documentation into SortSpoke for processing. Your team manages that process, instructs SortSpoke on the classification of the documents, of the different document types, and of the key fields that you need from each different document type. And then the structured data format is provided for downstream purposes, whether it's to build a database, or whether it's to complete a downstream underwriting process or claims adjudication process. We provide that structured data format in JSON or CSV format, whichever makes sense to you. So a quick review of features, and then I'll give you a quick demo. Any PDF document, structured or unstructured, single or multiple documents, scanned or native. We also have a split function at the beginning in the classification process of SortSpoke, which enables you to take say a 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 page PDF that has 4 or 5 different document types in it and split it up into its requisite parts. That's part of the machine learning as well. So the minute you first show SortSpoke that document and you divide it up into its 5 pieces, SortSpoke's machine learning is going to review that and understand it. And as it sees more examples, it's going to start to do that for you automatically with every new document that it sees that contains those pieces. As I mentioned before, any data in Latin-based, or I mentioned Roman Latin-based language, single values and checkboxes, sentences, paragraphs, and tables. We do have integrations with both Pega and UiPath, and we have pre-built integrations for both of those tools, both of those RPA tools. Everything is based on a REST API. So we are 100% modern API-driven technology, which makes the implementation to existing processes fairly straightforward. As I mentioned earlier as well, we're cloud-based. We're easy to deploy. That also gives you the benefits of, if you have large variations in the volume of documents that you're processing, it has the ability to auto scale and use the capacity that you need in the time frame that you need it. One of the things I will mention as well about an implementation is that because SortSpoke, from a cultural perspective, from a change management perspective, from your team, it's one of the things that, as somebody who has been involved in the operations side of insurance companies for over 25 years, getting people to change and getting people to use new technology was always probably the biggest problem that we faced. Not finding good technology, but getting the people involved, your key people, your subject matter experts, the real guts of your organization, to get them to adapt to and leverage fully this new technology. SortSpoke is very intuitive, and I'm going to show you this in just a second. We get feedback all the time from folks that are first starting to use SortSpoke, is that whoever designed this system really understood the need for flexibility, understood the need for, not to be pigeonholed, not to be very structured in terms of how to use it, but to make it simple, to make it easy, to make it flexible, to make it intuitive, and to make it feel like it was just something that they were doing already. So as I'm pulling up SortSpoke, great time for any questions if you have them.
Hey, Craig, did I misunderstand when we spoke at ITC? Do y'all have some sort of integration into RGA?
We do. That is a custom integration, Trey. So that's been built. RGA is one of our oldest customers, and we do have an integration into their in both ends. Actually, we're integrated to their downstream underwriting engine. We're also several of them, in fact, and we're also integrated at the front end to receive incoming submissions from for their facultative life insurance underwriting business.
Okay.
Those other integrations that I talked about are simply off the shelf that anyone can use for for UiPath and for Pega systems, which are both, both RPA vendors. So everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So right across the top, just to orient you, there is only one instance of SortSpoke. There isn't a dev instance and a production instance. This is a production instance. This is exactly what your folks would see when they started to use SortSpoke. And across the top, just to give you a quick orientation, there's an import tab. Some of our clients, to be honest with you, some of the smaller ones, use this web upload feature. They just simply drag and drop files from a local, a local file, a local file folder, or cloud storage system, and drop them in here to be processed. The vast majority of our clients, 99% of them, in fact, use an API call to the inbound in mailbox or individuals in mailboxes to receive the documentation as it comes in from brokers or clients or whoever, to get it into SortSpoke. The first step in the process, actually, let me back up a second. Once it comes into SortSpoke, we do use, I misspoke when I said we don't use any outside technology. We do at the start, although it's not integral to what we do. We use OCR, we use several OCR, off-the-shelf OCR tools to provide, to put a machine readable layer on every document that comes into SortSpoke. And we tinker with and find the right cocktail mix for your documentation. And it really depends on things like how much handwriting is there? How old is this documentation? How many times has it been photocopied? Is it, is it written on pages that have a background shadow on them or some kind of cross hatching? We can find the right cocktail of OCR capabilities to make sure that your documentation is as SortSpokeable as possible. So that's the one part that is off the shelf technology. Everything else you'll see from here on in is the proprietary technology. So I just want to clarify that. So at that stage, that OCR layer would be provided, even if it's already got one, but we will turn scanned and native documents into machine readable text. The first step in the process is the sort tab. So over here, we refer to them as categories on the right-hand side. I hope you can see that. Sometimes the Zoom window gets in the way. But over here on the right-hand side is what's listed as categories. These are just document types. You name these whatever you want. These names I've put in here for demo purposes. So I've got things like specialty applications, surety applications, loss runs, and so on. These are just the categories or names of the different document types that your team is going to be processing and needs to process needs to identify these as separate documents or needs to identify these documents as being unique for the purposes of extraction. So I say that because every document category has a different list of fields that you want to extract from it. It does not matter how many variations, for example, in a loss run there could be infinite numbers. But the fact is that it's a loss run. That's a separate category of documents, for example, than a lab result. Showing SortSpoke how to recognize these is really simple. It's just a matter of dragging the incoming document, placing it over the correct category and saying, that's SortSpoke. That is how you're going to start to recognize that document that I just showed you is a loss run. That is how simple it is. That is how intuitive it is. That is how we try and keep things simple for the users. We try and keep things as close to what they're doing today. That is how you start to train SortSpoke. SortSpoke learns to categorize documents extremely quickly. It's a key part of the functionality of the system, but it starts to learn very, very quickly, on the order of 5 to 10 different variations. It's going to know once you've uploaded these documents, it's automatically going to populate the documents into these categories. This is also the section. This is also the part of the technology where, as I mentioned earlier, you can split documents and show SortSpoke that pages 1 to 5 are this type of document, like a loss run. Pages 6 to 10 are a surety application, and so on. And again, that is part of the machine learning part of the technology. It is also going to be, SortSpoke is going to learn that very, very quickly. As I said, stop me if there's any questions. I realize I'm moving fairly quickly because I want to make sure that we don't keep you longer than we have to, given my late start. Extract tab. This is the key place where your teams are going to spend 90% of their time working. Over here on the left, here are all your document categories, indicating the number of documents in each of the categories that are here to be processed. And on the right-hand side, so for loss runs or commercial applications, let's take a look at that, is a list of fields that has been created. This list of fields here on the right-hand side is entirely up to you. The number, the names are entirely up to you. Everything is bespoke. When you open this up initially, it's going to be blank. Adding new fields is as simple as clicking add edit fields, giving the new field a name. This name already exists, so let's do number 5. Click add and done. And you can see my new field is here. And I'm going to start to train SortSpoke just to show you how easy it is to train the system. So I'm going to suggest that the information that I'm looking for is right here. And I'm going to draw a box around the information. And I'm going to identify that that is new field number 5. And that if that is correct, I'm going to click this. If I need to make any changes to it, all I need to do is retype it. Make any adjustments I need to, and then click that I accept that field. So training SortSpoke is very simple. It is simply a matter of looking for the applicant name in the document, highlighting the text, reviewing it here in the bottom space, and clicking the accept button. SortSpoke will then move me to the next field. I do the same thing for each of these fields until I'm completely satisfied that I've taken all the data that I need out of this particular submission, and then I click accept document. At that point, 2 things happen. One is the structured data is sent to export for use in downstream in CSV or in JSON format. And number 2, all the nuance, all the interface, all of the back and forth, all of the keystrokes are being fed back to SortSpoke to inform that model, to inform your bespoke model for this particular document type. And that is how you train SortSpoke. Once that's done, once I've processed manually and taken that whole annotation process and manually gone through that 5 to 10 times, SortSpoke's machine learning is going to kick in, and it's going to start to make suggestions, as you can see here, right? There are values underneath applicant address, values under broker name, and so on. And then it's my role to review as I walk through it in a, in the process, in the order that makes sense to me and to your team, the values that SortSpoke has suggested in each of these fields, and verify them. So if I'm looking at, for example, location of risk, let's assume that that's not correct. I'm going to take that opportunity to remove it and say, no, SortSpoke, that's wrong. This is the information that I want right here. And click accept. That's how you train the system. And as I said, once you've got the system up and running, you've been using it, you've shown it 5 to 10 examples, that suggestion technology is going to kick in. The role changes then to be less, in fact, much less hunting and pecking. Now it's about verification of data and quality assurance that the user is going to provide to that process. And what we'll do is take a 5-minute process, cut it down to a minute or slightly less than a minute over a period of time, usually over 300, 400, 500 documents. If it's a submission like this sort of document, that's easily achievable. And you have achieved that, that productivity lift. You've also achieved that improvement in data accuracy as well as turnaround time, all by keeping your folks who know the business, know the customers, know the products, in the loop, involved in the process, and actively managing the system to get the best out of it for them. In a nutshell, that's what SortSpoke is all about.
I think I saw an example of an APS.
Yep.
Can you show that?
Yep, lab results, absolutely. So just to give you an idea of some of the different, these are actually one of the more difficult documentation types that we process for life insurance and life reinsurers because of the formats being quite different, right? It represents quite a challenge for the facultative teams.
Are you at liberty to say what reinsurers you partner with today?
I can tell you one of them. The others I'm under NDAs with,
Okay.
but RGA is our oldest and um, uh, oldest customer. They use it worldwide, so they use it. They use the tool in 7 different countries around the world. So they are fully versed in the tool's capability for multi languages. As well as doing documentation such as this.
Okay. We are in the process of vetting rules engines with a couple of reinsurers. We're down to
hmm
two. RGA is one
hmm
of them.
Yep, fair. Yep.
Okay. What about the APS application for insurance? Is that the application? The one above that, is that like just a
It's
true
actually
application?
this is a life insurance. These are life insurance applications. This one's
Okay.
heavily redacted, but yes. Yep.
So I was trying to understand when I saw APS, I was thinking like an attending physician statement where there could
hmm
be 100 pages of a computer printout where there are complaints and treatment and a lot of
Yep.
notes. Does the system do that as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I have not included that in the demo, but yes, it does. It absolutely does that.
Okay.
We process the entire contents of an APS.
Okay. I was trying to figure out how exactly you go about identifying, the whole training it, initially with an APS like that.
Yeah, it's I won't be, I won't lie to you. It does take it does take longer than an afternoon to
Hmm.
train the system on a full contents of an APS, but we're not talking, tens of thousands of documents. We're talking thousands of documents
Hmm.
that need to be, and in that training process, as I said, it's not you're not without automation capability and automation benefit taking place within that training process. You're going to start to see the automation benefit even on an APS or the contents of an APS. You're going to see the automation benefit kick in somewhere around the 15 to 20 documents after SortSpoke has seen that many. It's going to start to make suggestions. Are they going to be completely right? No. But you're going to start to see that automation benefit kick in, and it's just going to be like a gradual sloping curve, up to the right of time of accuracy, as well as learning, and a downward sloping curve to the right on time to process.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
The other thing I'll mention, if we're talking about there's interest here in the life insurance side, we are working on something we call impairment checker, which is kind of a complement to the existing system that I'm showing you right here. Impairment checker is a tool that will help life insurance underwriting teams identify the list of impairments that they are most concerned with. Most companies have somewhere between 700 and 1,000 impairments that they're looking for, whether it's diabetes or heart disease or high blood pressure, whatever it is. They're looking to identify those kind of impairments early on in the review process. So what we've developed is a summarization, basically a summarization of the APS contents, whether it's 700 pages or 10 pages, that will give you a really clear snapshot as to the number of times and the instances and the context around those instances of those particular impairments that the carrier has identified. So that's a customized tool. It can be customized to whatever impairments that you want, but it is really it's being viewed as being very valuable for that triage process up front, so that you don't spend a lot of valuable underwriting time on something that ultimately you won't write.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Thanks.
No problem. So just to wrap this up, just to give you some ideas to the output files, there is a couple of tabs. So this is the documents tab. This just keeps track of all the documents that have been processed, whether it's the status of it, and something that's finished. I'm going to show you so you can actually view the document. So if there's a requirement to, somebody says, hey, I've got the data field from this particular document, doesn't look right to me. I want to go back and see where the user, extracted the data from. That's exactly what you can do here. It will take you back to that particular document that was processed in SortSpoke. And then there are two types of downloads. As I mentioned, there's an Excel file. I'll just show this to you. So here's the Excel file with the fields. You get the name of the field on the left-hand side and the value that has come out of the extraction process. And then there is also a JSON, which is just another version of the same thing. And that is your JSON file, again, with some metadata at the top here with things like what time the document was processed, what project ID it was part of, what the who the person was, the username that processed the document, and then for each of the fields, there is the value that is extracted. There is a unique field ID which can be mapped anywhere in your business downstream business process. So this is critical because over time the actual name of the field might change, but the field ID will never change. So those are the, again, value, field ID, and the name of the field for each of the fields that you've extracted. So as I said, that's SortSpoke. User-driven tool, meant to be used by subject matter experts, the people who are doing the work today, meant to fit into their current workflow and work process as gently and as easily as possible. The kind of benefit that you'll see from it, don't take it from my, don't take my word for it. We'd be happy to have you, have do a POC, try it for yourselves, get your people who are doing the work today involved, and process, 100, 150 documents is all you really need to do to get an idea of the kind of value in time savings as well as accuracy that SortSpoke can provide to those teams. There's lots of information here. I am conscious of the times coming up to 1 o'clock. I wanted to leave you with this thought and then happy to answer any other questions that there might be. We believe very, very strongly the fact that your subject matter experts are your greatest asset, and artificial intelligence and machine learning isn't meant to replace them. It's not meant to try and, fill their shoes. What it should be doing is help them do their job better. And by taking the parts of their job that are low value, and frankly, most of the teams would fully acknowledge it's not the kind of work that they like to do. They would rather be underwriting, rather be paying claim, adjusting claims. Let that kind of work be done by tools like SortSpoke. So we put the easy, powerful artificial intelligence in the hands of your business users and give them control over how they work. Questions?
Have you ever heard of anybody using it for assistance, like with invoices?
Yep. We have several customers who use it for invoices.
Okay.
That's one of the, and the reason they use it for invoices is because of the high variation of layouts that invoices come in, as well as the line item information that is typically part of an invoice. So yes, we have several customers using it for invoices. It is one of the more simple use cases. It's one of the ones that you would have up and running and have at, a significant level of automation after a couple of weeks.
Interesting. We have massive amounts of invoices on the life underwriting side. And it is time consuming to organize them, and very manual, very manual process today. So I'll talk to the person internally who handles those, get his thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to, and I can structure a demo for that particular use case if that's of interest to you. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you know.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Any other questions? Oh, I
don't
do
have
appreciate your
any,
oh, sorry.
Greg, if you could send us the recording, I'd like for some people to be able to see this, and we'll get back in touch with you.
Yeah, happy to do that, Trey.
Thank you.
I do appreciate your patience. I do apologize again for the technical issues that we had at the beginning. But if there are further questions, feel free to reach out. I've enjoyed speaking with all of you, and look forward to chatting further down the road.
I just realized that there's two Trey Franklins, and my name is Jamie. Trey forwarded it to me, so I guess signed in as Trey. I don't know if we can handle two Treys.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. Jamie, what's your
can.
last name?
Hasselmeyer, Hass. I can send it to you. I
That'd
have
be
your
great.
information. I think I can.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great, Jamie.
We
All
Appreciate
right.
your time, everyone.
We can't
that,
handle
Trey?
two. We can't handle two Hasselmeyers.
Seriously. Yeah, you and my husband both.
Such a hassle.
Exactly.
Oh, awesome.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.